Welcome here. Now, I wanted to go a little further into the aspect of the experience of suffering, mental suffering, mentally suffering situations, and look closer into the actual fact that you're not experiencing suffering, you're suffering your experience. This is your experience. Breathing, looking, listening, working, situations, people. So, if you look closely, you may be able to see that when you suffer these things, you're not suffering these things, so to speak. You're suffering your experience. This experience that you're experiencing can be experienced how you'd like it. Once you realize deeply by looking at things like this, inquiring, going a little deeper into things that on a normal day you may not even think about. Suffering, getting upset, worried, anxious. Getting upset, being anxious, being reactive are all a cause of suffering your experience. Not wanting to be in that experience now, wanting to be in some future experience. Realizing that and accepting the experience that you're having now with everything throughout your daily life allows you to experience the experience the way you'd like to. Inquiring, do I need to be upset? Do I need to be anxious? Do I need to be reactive? Do I need to be deeply emotional? Do I enjoy those experiences? Yes, and we speak about going beyond that, those suffering experiences, and this realization of recognizing that when you suffer an experience, you're suffering an experience that can be consciously experienced. Consciously meaning that you can inquire, you can reconstruct the way you think about that experience, the way you experience it. Something's happening. Do I want to experience this the same way uh, that I always do? Anxious and anxiety, full of anxiety? Or will I like to experience this as it is? So coming in contact with that realization allows us to be more aware of mental fluctuations during certain situations. And so you not only wait until situations happen to question and inquire and practice being still or practice being throughout your daily life. You practice inquiry, you practice stillness, you practice what you would like to see in the outcomes of situations that may make you upset or mentally suffer. The inquiry part of it is quite interesting. It allows you to see the thought patterns that usually reoccur during these situations, or things that you go through. You see the thought pattern that correlates with the suffering and the emotion that attaches with the thought which creates the suffering. You say, I feel bad. That's the thought connected with an emotion. Now that emotion empowers the thought, which leaves the body feeling a certain way. Of course, I feel good is the same thing. Yes, it's better to say I feel good and notice that the aliveness in me is thriving and there, and you feel good. But isn't that also a thought connected with an emotion that empowered a thought? So we can see here that being is the neutral spot where you don't have to say I feel bad when something so-called bad happens. You don't have to say I feel good when so-called something good happens. You just simply accept it. You may say thank you, but it's not an exaggerated emotion powered. See, because when you live your life that way, it's actually blinding you to be able to see that it's a flux in between thought and emotion, which drives your beingness to certain states. It brings your beingness to a ah, which you don't need. No, nobody needs that. There's nothing wrong with enjoying joy, pleasantness. There's nothing wrong with enjoying being angry, being anxious. But to see that that's what's happening uh, allows you to choose. Keeping that neutral state of being your primary focal point. You go into the joyful aliveness, laughing at something, step back into neutral being state. Because ultimately, that's what happens anyway. So Some people need a lot of stimulation throughout their days, and if not, they call it boring. They may not have realized that that's just a pattern of thinking, a pattern of emotion that the mind is playing out. And stepping out of that pattern into being, rootedness, connectedness with just this moment, accepting this as it is. And that's a deeper joy that doesn't need any content, any stimulation, doesn't need anything. So yes, recognizing that the way that you live is always determined by the way you see. Seeing meaning, if you can see that everything, so to speak, is every emotional fluctuation is determined by the way you see, how thought creates that. If you cannot see that, then ultimately your life is predetermined and you continue the cycle of mental suffering throughout your life, never stepping out. Or you inquire about these things we talked about and reconstruct the way you experience life and not suffer life experiences. Because ultimately that's what it is. You're suffering your life experience. You're not suffering what's going on. What's going on is you are an experience of life. So whatever experience you experience is also an experience of life. And if you say it's two human beings, plants and animals, yes, animals experience each other, but plants, they don't suffer each other's experience. Excuse me. But say two humans, if you both are suffering your experiences of life, it's crazy. Upon seeing that you're an experience of life and you can experience experiences the way you'd like, you may go deeper into that and see. Thank you.